In the future, an alien race known as the Formics invades Earth, killing a large portion of humanity. The invasion was halted by a pilot named Mazer, who crashed his plane into the Formic queenship, costing his life. For the next 50 years, the international fleet is formed, and children are recruited to become soldiers who will one day lead a new fleet to a counterattack. These children are trained through war games and are monitored by a monitor attached to their necks. Ender, one of their best players, has skills that make other kids think he's cheating, but he never responds to the taunt. Colonel Graff believes Ender is the hero they require, but Major Anderson is skeptical because they require more than just battle skills. They also require a leader's personality. Ender is summoned to the infirmary one afternoon to have his monitor removed, which means he's out of the program. Ender is surrounded by jealous kids who drag him into a classroom and accuse him of cheating, and want to beat him up after the painful procedure is completed. Ender doesn't hesitate to defend himself now that he doesn't have the monitor, and beats up the leader before threatening everyone. Graff and Anderson are still watching everything through other cameras, and Graff is pleased with Ender's reaction. When Ender gets home, he tells his sister Valentine what happened, feeling bad about how violently he reacted because he doesn't want to end up like his brother Peter, who was kicked out of the program for his bad attitude. Valentine tries to console Ender, but their conversation is cut short by Peter, who arrives to challenge Ender to a fight for being kicked out as well. Ender, on the other hand, does not react and is left alone when he shields. Later, during dinner, Ender's parents try to reassure him that he has nothing to be embarrassed about when Graff and Anderson appear at their door. It turns out that removing the monitor was a test to see how Ender behaved without it, and after a few questions, they confirm he passed because his decision to beat up the other kid was tactical. He didn't fight to hurt other people, he did it to keep them from bothering him in the future. Graff believes Ender's mind is as sharp as Mazer's and wants him to return. If he accepts, he will graduate from battle school without the monitor. Ender accepts, and he is led to the shuttle that will transport him and the other graduates to battle school. Ender meets Bean and Eli, who can't stop vomiting when the shuttle takes off. Graff arrives to check on everyone, and when Ender cracks a joke, Graff informs the group that Ender is the smartest kid in the class, drawing everyone's attention to Ender in an awkward way. When they arrive at the school, Ender tells Graff that his little announcement made everyone hate him, but Graff explains the army needs their own Caesar to win this war. Ender then goes to his room, where he is greeted by some of the students who are already making fun of him for thinking he's better than everyone. Sergeant Dapp interrupts their conversation by teaching them the rules of the place in a condescending manner, and reminding them that teamwork is the key to survival. Graff later reminds everyone of their responsibilities and plays a video of Mazer's victory, which Ender finds strange. The team is taken to the battle room the next morning, which has 0G. Graff orders Ender to go first to demonstrate, and the rest of the kids quickly follow, gradually becoming accustomed to the lack of direction. Ender and Ben decide to test their weapons, only to discover that the shots freeze any body part they touch. Graff calls everyone back after a few minutes of practice, and informs them that this is the room where they will compete against other school teams. Then Dapp explains the game rules. They get 1 point for a limb hit and 6 points for a torso hit, but if either side gets one cadet through their opponent's gate unharmed, that army wins regardless of points. Ender spends the next 3 months training at school and writing emails to Valentine, but never receives a response. The training consists of studying Formic flight patterns and engaging in hand-to-hand combat, which keeps them aggressive and makes Ender feel like Peter. Ender is still skeptical that anyone truly understands their adversary, especially since no one tells them what Mazer did to defeat the entire fleet the last time. Graff tells Ender that he wants him to be the leader, but Ender is unsure how to do so when everyone is so different and he always eats alone. Graff informs the class one evening that some people in higher ranks have failed to meet the standards for admission to command school, so there is now a chance for students in this class to be promoted. Ender inquires if their emails are being blocked, and Graff confirms that all communication is being temporarily halted because people on Earth do not need to know what is going on here. Dapp then makes Ender do push-ups while insulting him and reminding him not to speak unless he is spoken to. Ender is surprised to see that the other kids now respect him after Dapp leaves. The following day, a teacher informs them that only 3 people passed the deep space navigation test: Eli, Bean, and Ender, prompting Bernard to accuse them of cheating. The teacher wants to go over some exercises and asks Ender to demonstrate, but Ender claims that Eli and Ben understand the concept better, so the teacher summons Eli instead. While Eli is explaining his answers, Bernard writes insults about Eli's weak stomach, which appear on everyone's screens, so Ender writes something about Bernard and sends it back, which enrages him. When the teacher hears him complain, she notices what's going on and tells Bernard not to dish it out if he can't take it. Later, at lunch, the class arrives to join Ender, leaving Bernard behind. Ender finds a game on his tablet and plays it in the evening while Ally watches. Ender is a rat in the game who must choose between two goblets, but no matter what Ender chooses, the rat dies. He then instructs the rat to attack the troll who is handing out the goblets, allowing him to complete the level. Ender explains that the academy is training them to be violent, which Ally doesn't understand. Graf and Anderson are watching this game because it is another test, and Anderson is surprised by Ender's solution because it has never happened before. It also validates Graf's belief that Ender is the ideal soldier, and Ender is immediately promoted to the Salamander army, which is known for being undefeated. Ender meets Petra, the only girl in the Salamanders, and the leader Bonzo, who is irritated to see Ender as his new team member because he thinks he's skinny and useless. Bonzo tells Ender that he'll trade him as soon as he can, but for the time being, he doesn't want him in the way. During matches, Bonzo instructs Ender to enter the battle room and remain motionless in a corner until the team is ready to move through the gate. Petra then informs Ender that the battle room is open for practice 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that she is available to assist him with his training if he so desires. Ender accepts, and the two of them end up in the battle room, where Petra teaches Ender some shooting techniques. When Bonzo sees them return to the room together, he becomes enraged and informs Ender that he is not permitted to practice at all. Ender requests a private conversation with him and explains that while he will obey every order Bonzo gives him during training, he will not allow him to control his free time. Furthermore, if Bonzo wants to trade Ender, it will happen faster if he shows growth. Ender proposes a simple deal. Bonzo can pretend he won this argument, and the next day he can tell anyone he changed his mind, retaining his respect as a leader while still giving Ender his free time. Ender is insulted by Bonzo for being impertinent, but the next morning, he does exactly what Ender said. The first match starts later, and Ender initially stays in his corner as Bonzo requested. However, as their team begins to lose, Ender steps in to assist Petra and devise a plan together. Petra pushes Ender while he pretends to be frozen, allowing him to steal 2 guns and launch a one-man attack that catches the enemy off guard and secures the Salamander's victory. Graf is watching everything and is overjoyed to see Ender shine. During lunch, the other Salamanders humiliate Bonzo by accusing him of holding Ender back. Later, while Ender and Petra are practicing hand-to-hand combat, Bonzo comes in and punches Ender, threatening to kill him if he ever makes him look like a fool again. Ender picks up the game on his tablet again before going to bed, and the rat encounters a bug-like creature who wants him to do something he doesn't understand. The creature then transforms into Valentine, who is forced to flee when the area comes under attack. The rat follows Valentine into a collapsed building, and, after transforming into Ender, discovers a strange sphere in the middle of the room with Valentine inside. The carpet then transforms into a monster and attacks Ender's avatar, prompting Peter to appear in the sphere and accuse Ender of murder. Ender, terrified, immediately closes the game. Meanwhile, Graf is enraged with Anderson because he believes her game is putting Ender's psychological state at risk. Anderson explains that she doesn't know how these images got into the game and that she can't change them, so Graf orders her to delete the game entirely. Graf then decides to speed up some promotions in the program so that they are ready on time. He summons Ender to his office and invites him to lead his own team, the Dragon Army, a name that was dropped 4 years ago due to their inability to win. Graf believes Ender can form his own team of freaks like him, and Ender agrees. Ender meets his new team, which includes Ally, Bean, and Bernard, after Dap shows him his new quarters and finally treats him with respect. Ender surprises everyone by requesting mutual respect and the disclosure of any ideas they may have because teamwork is the most important factor. Ender then pushes his team to work hard, even getting something out of Bernard, and they quickly reach 3rd place in the team ranking. Anderson reminds Graf that their superiors are impatient and want a decision on which team will advance any day now, but Graf despises the fact that the Dragons have yet to reach 1st place. Graf proposes an unprecedented solution, a battle between 3 teams, including the 3 first-place finishers, Dragons, Salamanders, and Leopards. The team receives the news unexpectedly, and in their haste to prepare, one of the guys injures his ankle. Ender sends him to the infirmary and prepares to take on this challenge with a smaller team, but Graf sends Petra as a replacement. Ender first sends Petra out with a boy as a shield so she can use her shooting skills to clear out the campers near the gate. Then he ties a rope around Bean and orders him to scout the room for information, which provides Ender with enough information to devise a plan. The entire team forms a meat shield around Ally and proceeds directly to the enemy's gate, winning the game. Bonzo approaches Ender in the showers after the game and asks him to fight. Ender does not want to, but he is forced to defend himself, accidentally pushing Bonzo too hard and causing him to hit his head on the floor. Anderson and Petra try to console Ender after an unresponsive Bonzo is taken to the infirmary for surgery, but Graf interrupts them to talk to Ender alone. He swears Bonzo will live, but Ender doesn't believe him, so Graf admits Bonzo will be returned to Earth for rehabilitation. Ender wants to accompany him and visit his sister, but Graf refuses to give him time off, so Ender quits. Following that, Anderson criticizes Graf for not seeing their students as children. But Graf reminds him that if humanity is to survive, he must see them as soldiers. Valentine returns home later on Earth to find Graf there, asking her for a favor. Valentine realizes Graf intends to use her to persuade Ender to rejoin the army, and Graf simply responds that he wants Ender to save lives. Graf then takes Valentine to see Ender, who takes her on a boat ride so they can talk privately. Ender expresses his regret at having to destroy people's lives in order to understand an enemy. Valentine reminds him that hurting Bonzo was self-defense, and she explains that she refuses to persuade him to rejoin as Graf wishes, but she believes Ender is here because he is afraid. He can't hide here forever, she says, and if he doesn't try, everything will be lost. Ender agrees to rejoin the army, but only if Graf stops blocking his emails. Ender is taken to the command base near the Formic home planet, where he has earned the right to train for the final test, rather than returning to battle school. If everything goes well, Ender will be given command of the entire invasion fleet. This base is located on a planet that was once home to the Formics before humans drove them out nearly 3 decades ago. Ender wonders why they need to keep attacking the Formics if they're contained on their own planet, and Graf explains that it's to keep them from attacking again in the future, the same reason Ender beat up those students months ago. Ender is shown to his new room, which includes an oxygen tank in case of an evacuation. Ender is startled the next morning by the sudden appearance of a strange tattooed man who jumps on him and reminds him not to trust anyone, not even his teachers. This man turns out to be Mazer, who isn't dead after all, and Ender finally gets to say something he's been thinking about. Whenever they show the video of Mazer's victory, they cut the footage right after he destroys the carrier, and he has no idea why. Mazer shows Ender the entire recording, and it's revealed that after Mazer destroys the main carrier, all the other Formic ships stop attacking and begin falling out of the sky. Formics are compared to ants for a reason. According to Mazer, they, too, rely on their queen, and if the queen is out of commission, the others can't think for themselves and die. The reason for the secrecy is that they aren't certain Mazer destroyed the queen's ship, so they can't rely on that strategy just yet. However, if the Formics have rebuilt their fleet, there must be another queen on their home planet, and the only reason they left is to find water. Following that, Mazer introduces Ender to the team that will be assisting him during the training simulations, which includes Bernard, Bean, Petra, and Eli. Then Mazer shows the team how the Formics' military power has been growing at an alarming rate, so they'll have to attack first to keep them from going out again, even if Ender doesn't think it's fair to go after creatures who keep to themselves. To begin, photoreal simulations will be used to best approximate. Ender will command the overall strategy, which he will pass on to his teammates, who will each command a battle group made up of drones. The most important thing is to safeguard the MD-500, a weapon capable of shattering molecular bonds that Petra has been trained to use. Ender and his team breeze through the first few simulations, accumulating victory after victory. But as the simulations become more complex and realistic, Ender loses his first battle after a few months of pure pressure. Mazer yells at Ender for failing, and when Ender says he can't win unless he takes risks, Mazer says he needs to focus on the big picture and delegate the small mop-ups to his team. Graf also explains that Mazer is frustrated because he has previously trained many teams that have all failed, but Ender will be the last because there is no time to train anyone else. Ender's final simulation will take place tomorrow, and if he wins, he will command the real fleet. Ender talks with Petra in the evening, explaining that he doesn't want to go to war and wishing he could speak with their enemies to better understand them. Petra reminds Ender that studies on Formic bodies have revealed they lack vocal cords, making him wish he could think to them instead. The next morning, Ender and his team prepare for the final simulation, which is being watched by Graf, Mazer, and a slew of higher-ups. This simulation will take place on the Formic home planet, where they will immediately encounter the enemy fleet. Ender commands Eli to engage in order for Petra to fire the MD-500 at the swarm, but this only causes the rest of the Formic fleet to leave the planet and pursue them. Ender follows his strategy from the battle room and surrounds their main weapon with the other smaller ships as a shield while the MD-500 recharges. Ender then orders Petra to fly the MD-500 toward the planet, and because the shield begins to burn as soon as they enter the atmosphere, Ender orders Bean to send his drones to deal with the incoming swarm so they can at least have a clear path and survive long enough. When the MD-500 is fully charged and close enough, Ender commands Petra to fire the weapon, which effectively destroys every living being on the planet and gives them the victory. The team rejoices in their victory, but Ender becomes concerned when he notices that they are still seeing images of the planet burning to the ground for some reason. Mazer and Graf arrive to congratulate Ender and thank him for saving humanity, as it turns out that it wasn't a simulation, but the real thing. Ender immediately collapses when he realizes he abandoned their own soldiers to use them as a shield and has annihilated an entire species that may have been preparing to defend themselves, given that they haven't returned to Earth in 50 years. The others try to portray Ender as a hero, but he only sees himself as a murderer. Ender is starting to lose it, so a nurse puts him to sleep with an injection and takes him to his room to rest, where Petra keeps an eye on him. Ender sees the bug creature from the game in his dreams and realizes it is the Formic Queen, who is protecting the sphere in the building and has always tried to communicate with him through his dreams. Ender finally realizes what she requires and runs out of the room to leave the base, forcing Petra to follow him in order to bring him an oxygen tank before he dies. Ender thanks her but sends her back because he must do this alone. He then walks into the fallen building and finds a Formic Queen holding the sphere, which is actually an egg. The Formics had no intention of fighting the humans, they were simply looking for water for their new babies. The Queen approaches and places her paw on Ender, but she lets go when she realizes he is not a threat. Ender takes the egg after realizing the Queen is dying and promises to find it a good home. Ender is promoted to Admiral after the war, and given a small ship as a reward, which he uses to fly into deep space and start a new Formic colony with the egg to atone for his sins.